Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us. Congressman, just a couple questions for you. Okay, you there, Congressman?
Hi.
Hi.
Nick.
There we are. All right.
You know, I know. You don't care. But yeah. I care. I just want to make sure you're doing okay.
Congressman, I have questions. All right, because the doors lock in a number of buildings in the House offices. You guys have key cards and fobs. Is it common for people to accidentally pull the fire alarm because they get confused on how to open a door? Is that common practice?
No. I think that's the first time that's happened under any circumstances, at least in the amount of time that I've been here. So, no, it's not very common.
Of all the stories this weekend, that was by far the funniest to come out of Washington, D.C., because everything else has just been monotonous and has been driving me nuts. As expected, on Saturday, you guys averted a shutdown by funding government for 45 days. How'd you vote?
Well, I voted yes on the Republican version of the extension. I voted no on the one that was actually the final one. And at least I think there's justified reasons for both of that. And on the first one, I don't know how closely you follow this whole thing, but we're in a budget fight, and we've got the debt spending level with the Ukraine money. All these things that are controversial at this point. And the Republicans, I thought, came up with a pretty darn good position. We had border security in there as a mandatory. We had going back to pre-COVID spending limits. We held Social Security, Medicare, defense, and the vets whole. We didn't cut any of that. We split the Ukraine out as a separate vote. But we didn't get the entire conference to support it. It was very, very close, but there were some purists who said, you know what, that's not quite good enough. And so that vote failed. I supported it, but failed. The one that came back around after that was just, in my view, it was just, there was no reduction in spending at all. There was nothing in there for the border. The Ukraine funding was built into it, or at least some was. There was, again, no reduction. So on that one, I didn't support it. But therein lies the fight here in Washington, D.C., at least when it comes to the money.
And that's the 45-day bill, right?
That's the 45-day bill. Yeah.
Okay. So
we're going to be right back on it again. These same issues haven't gone anywhere. We just delayed it. So now, it's at least for me, and I think most Republicans, it's trying to go back to the things that were important to us. We're in the first one, border security, cutting the spending, holding the mandatory stuff whole, and then making the Ukraine money a separate vote. That should be a separate issue.
So you are in a neat position because you've spent some time with Speaker McCarthy, and you have would you call it a working relationship with Representative Getz?
Yeah, no, I know him reasonably well, and
okay, and
so I know them both.
Is there any mediation? I mean, in your opinion, because since then, Representative Getz is, he wants to remove, and I know you've heard this soundbite multiple times, but just in case you haven't, he wants to remove Speaker McCarthy.
Infuriated by that spending deal, Republican hardliners are now promising a push to remove McCarthy from his post. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz says he plans to file a motion to oust the House Speaker Kevin McCarthy this week. In response, McCarthy told Gaetz to, quote, "Bring it on," and said he would survive attempts to remove him as Speaker. Now, under the rules adopted earlier this year, any Republican lawmaker can call for a motion to vacate the Speaker's chair, and the House would have to vote on it within 2 legislative days. However, it's not clear that Gaetz has enough votes to actually oust McCarthy. So we'll have some drama there this week, and we'll tell you what happens. We'll keep up on it.
Now, that was Maggie O'Mara from Channel 7. And we'll get around to playing Speaker Gaetz here in a little bit. But how is there any role for you to play in this as kind of somebody who knows both parties? And is there any piece?
Well, I think the personality wedge between Matt and Kevin goes pretty deep, and frankly, it's very unfortunate because we have the other stuff that's in front of us that really does need to be happening. That's really the unfortunate piece of this, because it distracts us away from trying to do some of the other things, in particular with the budget that we really need to be doing. And believe me, Nate, we don't need any more distractions. Okay, we've got plenty of those. And honestly, I think Matt is a bit out of line here, because the very thing that he's criticizing Kevin for in this case, by not getting some of these bills up and not getting the reductions in place, Matt himself has opposed, including that first continuing resolution that I described. Matt was one of the few on the Republican side that voted against it. So this is a little bit of his contribution to the problem. And I think, just personally, I think that he's a little bit out of line here. I don't think there's going to be the vote support to actually make a change. But I'll tell you what, it's going to suck the oxygen out of the room for a while. And a number of us, myself included, are connecting with other members to say, okay, where are you on this? And trying to get a pulse for where this vote count might go. But again, every minute we do that, we're not spending, at least in my opinion, where we should be spending those efforts.
Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us on Friday. We were scheduled to have you on, and there was a very lengthy caucus meeting. It was a possibility, not scheduled. It was a possibility we could have you on, but there was a very lengthy caucus meeting. Can you speak to the mood of that meeting?
Yeah, that's where we were hammering out the criteria for what we thought was going to be the pretty much unified Republican position. That was what I just described a minute ago.
Right.
Okay, this is a continuing resolution that was basically hinged around border security, trying to force that, because more and more people, even on the Democrat side, are coming to the realization this is really a problem. And so that was where we were hammering out those details, and that went on for hours. And so I apologize about missing that.
No. You're in Washington to do a job, not call this radio show. So
I really do appreciate the opportunity to communicate with your listening audience. So it's unfortunate when those things conflict. But yeah, I get it.
Where are we going to be in 45 days? Or sorry, now 43 days.
I think. Well, geez, my predictions with this are about as good as they are with political elections. I seem to be wrong more than I'm right. But I think most of us, at least on the GOP side, would really wish we could go back to where that first continuing resolution was. And so I just got word earlier today that we've basically cut out any district time or any time in state between now and that window of time to be here pretty much full time to work on the appropriations, get all of those individually at least passed out of the House. And then, of course, these appropriation bills will go from the House. They'll get to the Senate. The Senate will mark them up, probably change the numbers, and then we go to what's called a conference committee. And so all that stuff is going to happen theoretically before that 45 days. And that's what the continuing resolution was supposed to be, was to buy some time to get those appropriations ironed out. So that's what's going to happen. And if I had to make an educated guess right now, I would say the spending levels will land somewhere between what we were trying to propose with the pre-COVID spending levels with the first continuing resolution and the one that actually got passed as a stopgap. That's probably where it's going to land.
Congressman Russ Fulcher, we do appreciate the time, and we're going to take a quick break here because the other Idahoan, the other congressman, honorable gentleman from District 2, will be joining us after we take this break. Going to hear from both the Idaho House delegation. So, Congressman, thank you so much.
I'll go tell him not to pull the fire alarm on the way to the interview.
Please, yeah, we